Joining me today on Dolphin Tales, he is the director of sports medicine at Jacksonville University and a recurring guest on this program all the way back to the early days of the Dolphin Tales podcast, Doug Frye. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me, Scott. Seems like just about a couple of days ago that we had our first Dolphin cast when we first started talking about the pandemic back in May.
I know. Unbelievable to think that it feels like no time has passed. So much time has passed at the same time, if that's even possible. And what we were talking about back then was not that we have all the answers now, far from it, but it is incredible to see just how we've gone from we don't even know to, hey, we've gotten in a bunch of men's and women's basketball games and are targeting for spring and fall sports to start up in the new year. Pretty incredible how things have advanced over the course of the last couple months.
Oh, it's definitely changed so much. We went from talking, we have no idea what we're going to do to, hey, we have a plan all laid out, and then that plan got changed, and then we had a new plan, and then that plan got changed. But that's the great thing about all of this, with all the information that's been out there, and that it just continues to evolve, and we change as we need to. And we're definitely excited about being able to start playing and having got these games in, and we're excited about our teams being able to practice during the fall as well. That was huge for us here, and I know the student athletes were excited to get back there. Even though they didn't play any games, they were excited to be back and kind of have some sort of normalcy, if you will.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you to lay out every plan that has come and gone over the course of the last several months. That'd be a multiple hour, maybe day podcast, I feel like. What, as far as the transition from, hey, we've got these teams on campus, they're able to successfully work together as a group that's sort of their own little bubble, right? And practice, to the introduction of opponents from other places. How has things changed now the games have started, as far as your all's perspective in making sure that both sides stay safe?
Well, I think the biggest change is, we have each conference has a medical advisory board. Each conference has a working athletic trainer group within each one. And I think just having that dialogue and being on the same page and taking all the information out there from the CDC, the NCAA, and all of these other groups that have really worked hard and to lay out a good groundwork and framework for us to be able to do this. And then in conjunction with the other conferences, laying out testing protocols to ensure that we're trying to maintain some sort of safety here and monitoring to make sure that we don't pick anything up, and we do the appropriate standards of isolation and quarantine, and just really, I think the collaboration amongst everybody, all working groups, ADs, SWAs, athletic trainers, doctors, epidemiologists, just the whole gamut. There's so many people involved in this to help make this possible. And I just think that it's just amazing what schools have been able to do, from the time this started in March all the way up to now. It's just been truly amazing.
Basketball teams are rolling along successfully so far, both on the court, I would say, and off the court. And have things gotten, I don't want to say it's gotten easier, but has it gotten a little easier now that like the semester's over? It is. Are you all viewing this almost like a little bubble as far as how the teams are able to sort of stay within themselves over the course of a day-to-day basis, a weekly basis?
I think so. I think, as with a lot of institutions, not having students on campus has been able to help keep a little bubble for all the basketball teams. I know in speaking with a lot of universities, that's been helpful. When January comes back and all the students come back, then we're right back to where we were in the fall with having our big population. But, I got to say, everybody's done an amazing job throughout the fall, the student athletes, the coaches, staff, with trying to maintain all of what we put in place. You're always going to have little bumps in the road, but for the most part, everybody's done a great job. And, but this is kind of if you want to say it's a breather, it's a little bit more, a lot more easier to keep them, in check. So it's definitely helpful with this break.
Right, exactly. We were joking a little bit right before we started recording. I mean, you're as good as your next day's tests, basically. I mean, you can sit there and say, feel the sense of relief, or you can sit there and say, hey, look, I'm doing everything right. But this all could go in the snap of a fingers type deal. So to avoid or manage fatigue with all of this, are you just leaning on the coaches of these respective teams to sit there and saying, listen, I mean, they've got to be the primary messenger as far as motivation is concerned with maintaining all of these protocols?
I I think it's obviously a challenge because there is a fatigue with how because we test so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with the testing, though, I think people got to understand that testing is not the fix. Testing is not that doesn't give you a license to say, well, I'm tested 5 times a week, so I can go do what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Testing is just a way to monitor and kind of be a gatekeeper of managing a flow of how things go during a week and a time frame. So testing is a great way to kind of do that. It's not the end all be all. Like Dr. Hainline and numerous people have said, you can't test your way out of a pandemic, but it is a way to monitor your population so that you can effectively remove somebody that you need to and manage that. And the coaches have been great with talking with the student athletes about, hey, make sure you wear your mask, make sure you socially distance, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of what you're doing, and with still being able to do things you like to do, but you just have to be responsible with what you do. So, I think we've done a great job with that here across the board. So I think as we move forward to the spring, there'll be some challenges because, when spring starts, all the sports will be going. So, but I just think, at the end of the day, we do the best we can with what we have and how we're doing it. And, we hope that people make good decisions. So, and pretty much everybody has.
Okay, let's change gears here for a little bit at least.
Ooh.
I know, here I am
Oh,
whipping a sharp left turn on you. When your department, I mean, it's as hands on as any department in Jacksonville University athletics. Like you cannot do the majority of your job without getting kind of up close and personal a lot of times with the student athletes. How have things changed for you all in the athletic training department this year as far as how you handle trying to give the student athletes the best care they can possibly get, like always, but obviously maintaining some of the newer protocols and trying to do the best job you can in that regard as well?
well, I got to say, first of all, I got to give a huge shout to the staff because they have done a tremendous job this fall with helping with the load, with allowing me to do things that I need to do with all my meetings and my uh, committees that I'm on and all of that. I mean, they've done an amazing job, and I couldn't be here doing what I'm doing without them. So they need a great shout out because they've worked their tails off all fall, and so. With that being said, we have you know I think the biggest thing is managing the space, right? Because we're limited on the capacities,
Mm-hmm.
whereas before you could have numerous people in the athletic training rooms and do this and do that, and so just some, not to get into all the things that we've been doing, but kind of the biggest thing is setting the capacity limits where we manage how many people are in here. Whereas with rehab, a lot of times we were very hands-on. Now we've kind of, no, we're not hands off, but we're not as hands on as we used to be. So we kind of, step in, step back, step in, step back, and try to show them what to do and how to do it. Like over the summer, we did a lot of Zoom stuff with student athletes, and we continue to do some of that stuff now. But for the most part, we've been able to really successfully manage this and still give the care that we've been giving. We just had to do it in a unique way and try to ensure that they're getting the treatments and the rehabs that they need to do. So, we were able to change. We didn't have to change how we had our doctor's clinics or our chiropractor on campus. But what we did change about that was just how we set that up and how we managed the workflow. So that's been the biggest thing. So it's just managing workflow, scheduling the times, making sure there's not a lot of overlap between the teams when coming in and out of the facilities. So, and kudos to the staff because they've done a great job they're smarter than I am when it comes to putting the Excel spreadsheets and doing all that kind of stuff. So like, I just got a new iPhone and I can't figure it out. I've been an Android guy for 20 years. So this iPhone thing's killing me. So imagine me with a spreadsheet.
Would you say that the hiring process, you've emphasized organizational skills to help you out?
Yeah. That would be a big one. Is but the return to campus back in August was unbelievable. We were able to accomplish so much, and the staff did a great job with organizing our cardiac screenings, our concussion testing, our returner physicals, like all these things. And they've done such a great job with managing that it was just unbelievable. So, it can be done. You just got to get everybody on board and just trying to manage that workflow. And that's how we've been able to maintain our success for this fall.
Yeah. Not to get like too into the weeds, but I mean, it's just amazing just on an overarching nature, like the way that the campus reopened, the way that everybody came back, and just sort of the normalization because we got into that flow of how to live life almost. We wore our masks everywhere and we made sure we social distance and we did our meetings virtually and so on and so forth to a point where it's like, okay, if you'd asked me 5 months ago, those are things when I would have never thought I'd be used to. But now, sometimes I'm walking around, I'm like in my apartment, I got a mask on. It's like, what am I doing?
Right.
There's nobody else here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I find myself doing the same thing. It's just, you kind of laugh about it. It's just one of those things. It's like a part of it's like my tape cutters, right?
Yeah.
My tape cutters are always there. So now my mask is there. So, it's just funny, but yeah, no, it's definitely unique. I mean, none of us never imagined this back in May, March, April, May. We all thought, hey, by June, July, we'll start to see some sort of, and then August hits, then September comes, and then, but I just think so many people have done a great job throughout the country with trying to manage this with having no knowledge of this. It changes all the time, and I can't stress that enough about the work that staffs and departments are doing throughout the country. It's just unbelievable, and it's exciting to see the joy on the student athletes being able to play. Like, it's great to see, because I know at one point we had talked about not having fans in the stands.
Yeah.
But then we open it up to the families, and it's just great to see the kids be able to at least play in front of their families. I think that's the big thing, and it's going to be exciting to see all of our sports come back in the spring and be able to start playing again. I think that's what makes this all worthwhile for all of us, is seeing them get back to trying to do what they came here to do. So I think that's the best part.
The big thing about the families being there is just loud enough in the gym, Doug, to where I don't have to go into my master's voice when I'm calling the basketball game. So that's like the biggest.
Yeah. Oh.
When it comes to the plan for the spring now, as we wrap things up, what are we looking at as far as, I mean, I'm sure you're neck deep in basketball and just trying to make sure that works, but I know you got to think a little bit ahead. So when it comes to coming back, I'm assuming the encouragement is for these athletes to be as safe as they can while they're at home or wherever they may be. I know some stayed here over the break, but testing when they come back and then just sort of a reacclimatization. I mean, are you able to use a similar protocol to what was used in the fall when things first started?
So that's a great question there. So that's the $1 million one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which Scott Manze always asks. He's good at that. The voice of the Dolphins, hard hitting questions. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. It'll be more. So all the student athletes will have a test before they come back, which is a university requirement. But then when they get back on their report date, we're also going to test them again within the athletic department. So we'll start them on their testing protocol for their respective season based on their sports. From as far as an acclimatization standpoint, obviously we're stressing over break if they're able to and they have the means to be able to work out, make sure you're maintaining your shape, make sure that you're doing those things. As far as an acclimatization period, I don't know if it'll be the traditional one we did back in when we first got back in August, but we are going to have one. It'll be more of a hybrid based upon how they look, and as a group and a team. So, there may be some teams that can, go through it a little faster than other teams, or there may be certain athletes that may have to, hey, we need to pull them along a little bit slower. So I think that's the biggest one. It's just knowing what we have when they get back and making the best choices in a safe manner, because I think they start playing like 2 or 3 weeks after they get back. So there's got to, it's just bam, it's just like right back into it. So, we just have to have a smart approach and a common sense approach to all of this. And, but between the athletic training staff, the strength staff, and the coaches, we'll make sure that we put together a great plan to set them up to give them the best chance to compete when they get back. So.
Hey, I got a couple of committees that I'm looking for somebody to be on. Would you be interested?
Yeah, no, I enjoy being on those. It's been interesting. I mean, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of
Mhm.
time. I know I haven't been on the AT one the last couple of weeks, but I'm co-chair of the ASUN athletic training group with my friend Mike up at Kennesaw State, and then I'm also on the ASUN medical advisory board, and then we have our RSP one
Yeah.
here with a great group of people to work with, and they've been awesome. They've done a lot of work with all this stuff too, in trying to put things together with plans and all these documents, and so that's been a lot of fun. I'm also on one I'm a co-chair for one here in Duval County for the high schools. So I kind of been working with them on some things, not necessarily COVID related, but some other health and safety things. I've had a little bit of input on that, and I mean, there's a bunch more, but man, it's just it's exciting, it's taxing, but at the same time, you learn something new every day. I mean, there's always something that new that comes out. So
The high school part is interesting. Obviously, JU has a relationship with JOI and Baptist Health, which supplies a lot of the trainers in the high school region for the sports too. So you're having information sharing is the key, right, to all of
right,
this. So
right.
your ability to kind of say, hey, listen, like at JU, here's what we're doing, and have that kind of disseminate to help out what is really, I would say, here locally has been a wildly successful, knock on wood, high school schedule so far too, because they don't have the testing, they don't have the same, they can do protocols, but it's just not at the same level that like we're working with the JU. So it's pretty cool that you've been able to help, even in a little way, in ensuring that those things are able to get off the ground.
Yeah, no, it's been Duval County, I think, has done a great job. I mean, some people may argue no, but I think holistically that they've done. I mean, it's been an amazing year to pull off with lack of resources that a lot of places have, and I mean, they've done an amazing job. They really have, and to your point, sharing information is the biggest key, and that's what's been helpful, being on these in with these groups, or just reaching out to friends in other regions, at other schools, at different levels, whether it be pro, college, D1, D2, D3, or whatever. It just sharing that information has been amazing. I know our staff, they've reached out to their friends that have been that are at some other places, find out what they do, and it's just amazing the that it runs the gamut on what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, some are like, holy cow, this is like we're running an ICU with this, and then some are right in the middle, and then some are hey, this is all we can do. But if that's all you can do, then do the best that you can with what
Yeah.
you can do. And I think that's what people are failing to realize, is that some of these places are doing great jobs with the limited resources that they have, and they should be applauded for that. Not I just think that for them to be able to pull off what they did here in our surrounding counties has been amazing at the high school level.
No doubt. I mean, the cancellations have been at a minimum, and it's great because so many high school we obviously talk about the impact of college athletics and JU here on this program, but yeah, all those high school seniors lost their spring sports, lost their senior year, most of it as well, when it comes to competition. And you don't want to see that all of a sudden snowball into you've got multiple years of kids not being able to play the sports they love, and so many won't get an opportunity to either play that again competitively or attract the eye of a scout or a coach and get that opportunity at the next level. So, I mean, JU could have recruited a kid this year that because they played, and if this stuff doesn't work out, then maybe that person doesn't even get an opportunity. Who knows?
Right. And I think, as I spoke to you earlier, I think Tony has done a great job with the guys. He tells them every day, hey, every day this could be your last day, so treat it. You don't know what the next day will bring. You could have a cancellation, you could have a setback from another team, you could have, you just don't know. So treat it like every day is your last day, and treat every game like it's your last game. So enjoy the moment and do everything you can. So I think that's the biggest thing.
That's great. And you go back, and not that I think that we should fault anybody because nobody knew, but if you gave the spring sports at JU a mulligan on how to approach maybe the early part of March, if they had been able to kind of do that, been like treat every game like the last game, I think that all of a sudden that shock isn't so hard. I mean, I just think of Yale coming here with baseball, knowing that it was their last game, and they played it like it was, and they were able to get a bunch of guys in there and had a moment after the game that nobody else on a spring sport here got because of just the sheer, it was just so abrupt in how
Right.
it came to a close. So, hopefully we're never staring down the barrel of that again, but at that whole scale level. But yeah, why not? Just it's probably a good thing to take with you regardless of the situation in life. You don't know when that injury or that whatever is going to, unfortunately bring a close to it all. So go out there and take advantage of every opportunity you get.
We made the joke. I think we're going to write a book called Athletic Training Through a Pandemic.
And somebody's got to write it.
And then we're going to put it in a time capsule. So when the next one happens, hey, here's a manual,
Don't open until 2117 or whatever,
Yeah. I just, I tell you, it's been an amazing journey with all of this. And I think, it's been hard on us. It's been hard on a lot of people. It's been hard on everybody, to be honest with you. But I think through it all, we've learned so much on organization, on management, on pandemics. I mean, just all these things that's invaluable as we move forward, that can actually probably help us in our day-to-day things. And I think that's probably been the most challenging part as you talk with athletic trainers, is we've gotten away from our traditional jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not the traditional athletic trainer like we were. I mean, we're doing all these other things, and then maybe athletic training is like 10% of it, right? So it's just amazing how that's kind of flipped. But it's definitely been a great, I don't know if great's the right word, but a great learning experience for all of us in just learning a lot of things. I mean, just a lot of things.
Well, I appreciate you getting deep with me here over the course of the last couple of minutes, Doug.
Oh yeah, no,
we got philosophical there.
Yeah. I'm a philosophizer, in the words of Zoolander, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He's the head of sports medicine at Jacksonville University, and he's got his hands, his feet, his everything in a whole bunch of different pots and committees this year as well. Jack of all trades, Doug Frye. Thanks for joining us here on this week's Dolphin Tales podcast.
All right, Scott. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.